Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. Best show ever here on 97.5 The Fanatic, NBC Sports Philadelphia. 610-632-0975. Let's get right to the opening statements. We got a lot to talk about. And we start with the word of the day today. And believe it or not, the word of the day today is encouraged. And I'll tell you why. Last night with the Flyers, something great happened. Now, normally, I hate when your stadium gets overtaken by opposing fans. Like I hate it with the Mets, and I'm going to hate it this year if it happens. But last night was it was one of the greatest things to happen in the franchise's history. The Flyers hit rock bottom last night as the Rangers completely take over the Wells Fargo Center, and then they go and win the game. This was necessary. Enough is enough. I'm tired of it. Look, I don't like to tell people how to spend their money. Therefore, if you like going to the Flyers, do whatever the hell you want to do. But I can tell you this, what they've been doing for a long time, and I wish it was only under Comcast, what they've been doing for a long time is completely unacceptable, and for years, Flyers fans resisted calling it out. And finally last night, after so many years, I am so encouraged that Flyers fans acted like regular fans and said, you know what? The slop you have been giving us for years, for more than a decade. Don't be fooled that this is just from Comcast. This was the end of the Snyder regime as well. For over a decade, the Flyers have, for the most part, stunk. And finally, Hunter, the fans acted like they were dealing with a team that's terrible.
It took too long, but at least we're here because it's been way too much of garbage on the ice. Chuck Fletcher's been here since 2018, and now it's 2023, and we're sitting here talking about a rebuild. At that point, what has he done? What has the moves been where you go, oh yeah, this is why I feel comfortable with Chuck Fletcher leading the way? Things have to change. The other day he said, we've been transparent about our message all along. In what world? You spoke 3 months ago, and he's telling the fan base we're only a couple points out of a playoff spot. I watch around the league, and I see the Boston Bruins sign Pasta to an extension. They're thrilled. They're making trades and acquisitions with Detroit to get better. Patrick Kane's going to the Rangers. What do we get? I'm losing fun when it comes to watching hockey, all because of the way Chuck Fletcher and this Flyers organization are right now, and I'm sick of it. I'm sick.
If you're going to do a whole rebuild, do the whole damn rebuild. Don't beat around the bush. Don't bring in older players like you think you're going to build something around these guys, and then all of a sudden you need to trade all these guys, get rid of salaries and everything else. Chuck Fletcher, bye-bye. Go. Leave. Nobody wants you here, and take everybody else with you that are on those steps with you, because if you just get rid of one, it's not going to help the situation. You have to start from the bottom up, clean house, empty out everything, start all over again, because that's where the Flyers are right now. We sit back when the Eagles go into Giant Stadium. We sit back, or MetLife, whatever it's called. We sit back when they go into Detroit. We sit back when they go into Arizona to play the Cardinals, and it's all a takeover. Guess what, Flyers? You are now the laughingstock, because that was ridiculous. I have never – I know it happens with the Mets coming into Citizens Bank Park, but not like that. That was ridiculous. That goal went in. It sounded like they were playing at Madison Square Garden. Check yourselves, Flyers. Period. That's the bottom line of this. Check yourselves, and time to fix it.
And the way to fix it now, just full disclosure, because I know this is a problem for people with small brains. We're currently being simulcast on a station that's owned by Comcast. If you think that Comcast selling the team would solve it, great. I don't care. Great. Sell the team. I'm saying the Flyers have stunk before Comcast took over. This isn't just a Comcast thing. This is a Flyers problem, and this is a way to shield people. Here's who has to go. All of them have to go. Bobby Clark, all of them now have to go. If you're a former Flyer and you currently work for the Flyers, you have to go. All of you. That includes Danny Briere. They all must go with Chuck Fletcher. The only person that stays is Tortorella. Everyone else is new. Everyone else, everyone must go. If you're going to tear this down, all the players, I don't care if you don't keep any of them. I don't want to part with Carter Hart. I'm saying, though, if you have to include Carter Hart in the deal, in order to tear it down to where it needs to be, do it. And the people making the decision should not be any of these old school Flyers people. None of them. You got Flyers fans have to understand just how bad this is. So it's easy to say, just say Comcast, and I'm fine. If you think Comcast will solve it, what do I care? But I'll tell you this, it's not just them. If you get rid of Comcast and you bring in another owner and it's still going to be Holmgren still around, Bobby Clark around, just the fact that you play a game for the Flyers makes you a forever member of the team with decision-making power. It's not going to change. What they need is a new set of eyes all the way through. So it's easy to say Comcast, but what else are you going to do? What else are you going to do? It's not just Chuck Fletcher either. Because at the end of the day, I don't know. I know he's not good, so he must go. But is who has final say right now? Are we sure it's Chuck Fletcher?
I have no idea.
That's the problem.
That's
the problem I'm actually running into when I look at these things. Who's actually running the day-to-days?
Well, right now, it's so dysfunctional that right now, Torts is actually the one demanding things to happen because he knows how much of a mess it is, and him and Chuck aren't on the same page. So when you see...
But who is he demanding it to?
The front office.
Okay, there you go. You're talking a grouping now. You're not talking about one solo guy in Chuck Fletcher. Fletcher doesn't seem to be making decisions.
That's why I'm being serious. I'm saying I don't care who owns it. If I take over, everybody goes. Everybody has to go. It all has to go. Because if I don't know, that's fine. I don't need to know. What I know is I'm going to now hire new people from other organizations. I'm going to have hockey guys that know what they're doing, analytics guys that know what they're doing, cap guy. The buck is going to stop with somebody. But what I'm not going to do today is blame one entity when this has been going on. This was going on when Lindros was still here. Did they win a cup with Lindros? They got close, but did they win a cup? They got swept, but did they win a cup with Lindros?
Nope.
No.
Right. This isn't just the Flyers have not been competitive enough forever. It's been a really long time. And I know that for a long time, they won more games than they lost. I get it. I do understand that. But we're talking about since the 90s. It's since the 90s. This team has not done what it's supposed to do. This stuff, how long did it take the Flyers for all those years when the Flyers were still trying to have the biggest players in the world and everybody else had skaters? Where are their skaters now? Where's the sniper that can go end to end and get you 40, 50 goals? Those guys exist, right, Hunter? Do those guys exist?
We don't have. The closest we have is connecting. He's probably a 30-goal scorer.
And some teams, I'm noticing, have more than one of them.
Yeah.
Right. They're out there.
But why don't we have them
Why don't
here?
we have them
No,
here in
we don't
Philadelphia?
have snipers. We have Justin Braun, a guy who was scratched for a majority of the season playing forward. That's a joke. Like, that doesn't happen in the NHL where you go get a guy who barely plays on defense and he's playing wing. It's a joke. And let's this vision.
Joke or a travesty?
Yeah, both. And this vision that they have, I don't know what it is, but if Chuck Fletcher isn't a part of it, and it shouldn't be, he should not be a part of it. He's now pulling moves at the deadline. He's in control of what we get back with JVR and Kevin Hayes.
Is he, though?
I don't think he necessarily is right now.
And you keep all those guys around. When Fletcher was hired and Holmgren was let go, he got promoted? You look at this thing, their chart of guys. They have this guys up front and then underneath these people and then down there. Man, the Flyers, it's going back to guys from the damn 70s.
Yeah, it's bad.
Enough is enough. And that's why I am telling you, I am encouraged by the Flyers fans. Last night, they finally told the organization loud and clear, enough is enough. Let's start the Twitter poll before we get to the phones with Jen Scordo. What is the poll today?
Oh, this is going to be a fun one. Will you continue to go to Flyers games if they keep putting out a bad product? Mm-hmm. Yes or no? Easy. 94% say no right now.
And that's good.
Yeah.
Because we're just asking the question. I know that if you want to go to Flyers games and you like taking your family down there, do it. I'm not telling you not to do it. I'm saying I don't know what other recourse Flyers fans have now outside of not going. I don't know what else they can do.
We finally hit a point where that Flyers faithful, I think, is now ready to take a stand. And I think that was problematic, is there were still a group that were still showing up, that were still saying, I'm watching, I enjoy Torts, he's coaching well, which he is coaching well, and it does seem like the timing is off because what he provides might be different from where this organization needs to head right now.
Yeah.
But there was a grouping that were holding on to still support Torts and some of the young kids like Noah Cates and Owen Tippett who are having nice seasons. But at the end of the day, it's time for a city to take a stand. When I was driving in, I was listening to the Cuz, and someone called in and brought up a point that Flyers hockey, there's a part of Philadelphia and Flyers hockey that goes hand in hand. And we're missing such a big part of the culture of this city when this team is this much of trash, and we need to somehow get it back.
Trash, they're non-existent.
Let me ask
this
you
is
this,
a
Ricky.
non-existent Big Four team. I mean, when you think about it.
It is. Let me ask you this. What's it like for you as a former athlete? What was it like when you were at a place where either the fans took over that stadium or it got taken over? What was that like for you as a pro athlete?
You felt like flipping them the bird if you were home. There's no doubt about it. You feel like your fans have kind of, I guess, turned their back on you. I mean, that's the only way I could. I've never seen anything like what I saw last night. I have not seen that in any of Philadelphia sports in Philadelphia.
Right.
I've never, ever seen that.
Like, even when the Mets take over, they get loud because good things happen. But when the Phillies do something good, the Phillies fans are still loud. Last night was another level.
Last night, when they scored that overtime goal, it was like they were at Madison Square Garden.
All those jerseys, it was more blue in that place than a man that's gone without for 50 years.
You know what? Let me put it this way. It's like the Rangers took a big hand and just slapped every Flyers fan right in the face.
I was in there on Twitter like, is this a Blue Man Group thing? They playing the drums? They
That was
jumping around with
unbelievable.
drums?
It really was.
And at the end of the day, I'm like, good. Not because I'm glad the Flyers are this bad. Good that Flyers fans finally, because we know about the element where there's this loyalty to a fault. But it's almost like at this point, the Flyers have cheated on you every day for a year. At some point, you leave them, right?
You got to let it
Yeah.
go.
Like, you forgive them once. I mean, if that's what you choose. You want to be Beyonce or whatever.
And
You forgive them twice. But this is like 30 times. Enough is enough at some point.
in my eyes, I felt like the adrenaline was out of the balloon all season anyways. And the reason why I say that, stay with me here. You usually go to a hockey game, the Flyers score a goal, everybody stands up.
Yeah.
You saw that last night. Wrong team. But I was at plenty of games this year where the Flyers scored and people sit in their seats and clap.
Because they know.
Because they know they're just not, you know what? That's just a moment that we're going to have. It's not going to be a big moment.
And I'm interested. How do Flyers fans follow up last night? I think it should look like that every game the rest of the way.
Well, who's
Now
their
the
next home game?
I don't know. I mean,
Detroit on
yeah,
Sunday.
Red
Yeah,
Wings.
yeah.
I don't see that taking over.
No, but and the tough part is I know I can't ask you to eat it because you don't want to eat the money. But if you can afford it, eat it and have empty seats. If you can afford it. If you can afford it. If you can't afford it, then do what you got to do. But I'm telling you, if I had the money and I'm owning these tickets, I might just eat it. Especially if I was down low, empty.
There's just been so many rumors. They're talking about possibly hiring him for or hiring Danny Briere as GM and keeping Chuck Fletcher president of hockey operations.
That's what they did with Holmgren, though.
How can you do that, though?
That's what they did with Holmgren. That's what they do.
When Howie had a poor couple of years.
Put him in the basement.
I'm even saying after that, after the Doug Peterson thing, you win a Super Bowl, things got a little ugly.
Yeah.
There was at least something you could fall back on and say, while Howie's not great now, he did win a championship.
Yeah.
There were times where things were successful. He's just not pushing the right buttons now, and they gave him some time, and then he did. What do you fall back on with Chuck Fletcher? You go back to the Minnesota times? Oh, what was that? Cap hell?
I would say no.
And a poor team that could never advance in the postseason. We're in cap hell and can't even get to the postseason. Travis Sanheim, Kevin Hayes, Ristolainen. Let's keep going through all these contracts with all the money tied to it. They gave Sanheim an 8-year extension. For what? He's just a guy.
That's
Who
great.
ties yourself to a guy?
Hunter's right. There's no doubt.
8-year extension. What are we doing?
Everything you're saying is correct. That's why they all have to go. And Bobby Clark's, you can come to watch. What you don't have keys to offices anymore. You walk through a special entrance to a suite.
It's new blood.
Everyone. If you played for the team before, you're gone. All of them go. First of all, and also, none of them are going to miss a meal. They're all rich. This isn't like firing somebody down at the local plant.
They
okay?
need somebody in there with a 3-year vision now.
Well,
Not next year, now.
They don't have that. But let's go to the phones. Amadeo in South Philly, talking Flyers. You're on 97.5 The Fanatic. What's up, Amadeo?
I was in that building, guys, last night. I was also at the game in Jersey when they got blown out.
7-0.
Yeah, and that was my lowest point as a Flyers fan in my entire life. Me and my father have been season tickets like when the Phantoms started in this city. Then when they left, we got transferred over to Flyers season tickets. This is the lowest of the low. This is an embarrassment for this organization and good for the fans for, showing their frustration. And you guys too. Like, this needs to happen.
Let me ask you this, Amadeo. You're a longtime fan, correct?
Yes.
Now, do you feel like you know how loyal you've been? What have you got in return for a long time now, for a decade plus, in return for all your loyalty? What have you gotten, Amadeo?
One Stanley Cup final run when I was in 6th grade.
2010.
That was it.
And this is what I mean. Like, at some point, so let me ask you, are you a season ticket holder?
Yes, we are.
Okay. Have you already renewed? Where are your thoughts there if the team's going to continue to be bad? Well, and again, I'm not judging your answer. I'm literally curious.
Well, this is like, since it's me and my father pays for the season tickets. Like, his explanation is that he's one of those guys that just likes hockey. He likes going to games and all that stuff, but he doesn't blame people because we live like 5 minutes from the sports complex. We can easily walk down there.
Okay.
But he doesn't blame people that live in like suburbs. They have to drive all this way. He doesn't blame them if they don't want to renew. But there's also something here. If there's season ticket holders listening to the show, there's a town hall meeting on Saturday at Xfinity Live. And for the season ticket holders that are left, it's going to be with Chuck Fletcher, front office, and everything.
Oh.
Amadeo, can I get your ticket? Because I would love to be first in line for some questions for Chuck Fletcher.
Wow. Well, listen, Amadeo, your father, keep fighting the good fight. Don't let them off the hook on Saturday. Please attend. Thanks for the call.
They need the old school's picket signs out there. That's what they need to do.
Now, what's funny is there has been, AI has his first year. Johnny Davis is the coach. Pat Croce goes in front of Sixers fans at the Wells Fargo Center, and they gave him the business. They cursed him out. They did everything. He immediately gets rid of Johnny Davis, hires Larry Brown, and immediately they get better the following year. Then they start making the playoffs, and eventually it culminates in the finals run. They didn't seal the deal, but Flyers fans, don't think you're completely helpless. Go on Saturday if you could go. And make sure they know on a 1 to 10 that you're on a million as far as anger. Because maybe, I can't promise it, but sometimes people listen to those things if it's unanimous. 610-632-0975. We'll get to more of your phone calls on the other side if you're on hold. Got a long segment coming up, so we'll get to you. I am encouraged by what the Flyers fans did, but that was a first step. Where do we go from here on 97.5 The Fanatic? We have a little cut to play real fast before we Hunter and I can respond to an email we got from some guy named Aaron. But this was the sounds. If you turn on the Flyers, you think, all right, here we go. Obviously, if the Rangers score, this is what you'll hear boos. Instead, this is what you heard after a Rangers goal.
Only thing missing is the horn.
Yeah, well, they can't play the horn for the road team.
Might as well.
I mean, you may as well play to the crowd that you have, not the crowd that you want.
They got Vladimir Tarasenko and Patrick Kane at the deadline. These moves
and
that are
Tarasenko
happening.
wins the game for him.
Yeah, he scored a nice one.
Kane plays tonight.
All these moves.
Back to back.
I'm watching all these moves happen, and I'm sick to my stomach that this is reality with our team.
So some guy named A.A. Ron is saying, it's only Comcast. Now listen, A.A. Ron. I don't want to respond to your long, meandering, stupid email, but I'll say this, A.A. Ron. If you want Comcast to sell. I think that it's larger than that, and I slightly disagree with Anthony Gargano for this reason. Comcast inherited all the Flyers fans that fans like A.A. Ron allowed to happen. When Comcast buys a team, they're told how things go around there. And you know what goes around there? If you're a former Flyer, you have say. Bobby Clark has say. Holmgren has say. So under Comcast, they moved Chuck Fletcher, and Holmgren somehow, even though he had done a terrible job, got promoted. So this is how it works in Flyers land. You never get fired. You get promoted, and they put another guy in there and add another person to a big stew of trash. That's what Flyers do. That's pre-Comcast. That's post-Comcast. Under Mr. Snyder, where unfortunately before he passed away, they had one in 41 years. That's what they did. They didn't fire people. I mean, he fired his son. But for the most part, the way it worked with Flyers, no one gets fired. You get bumped upstairs. They bring in a new person. You bump somebody else upstairs. You bring in a new person. The only thing they change are coaches. That's what Flyers do. That's pre and post Comcast. I'm not saying Comcast solved it, but let's not pretend like Comcast created that. Fans like you, Ron, created that because when that crap was happening, you weren't complaining about it. What was Holmgren still doing in the building? When Fletcher first got hired, why was Holmgren still in the building? Why was Bobby Clark still in the building? And now, according to what you're hearing, they're going to do the same thing. Kick him upstairs, bring in somebody else. Eventually, they'll kick Daddy Briere upstairs and bring in somebody else. That's what they do. That's not a Comcast thing. That's a Flyers thing that needs to stop.
Yeah, and look, I don't know if that's absolutely going to happen, but a few weeks back, it was definitely rumbling around town. Now, maybe things have changed because they know what the tone is of the fan base and how bad it has gotten for Chuck Fletcher, but you forgot one important detail. The Flyers lead the NHL in fights, baby. 31 fights, and they signed Delorier to a deal for multiple years.
4-year deal for a goon.
No trade clause. This is the type of garbage that they must be satisfied. Bobby Clark and Paul Holmgren must be thrilled to see that they lead the NHL in tilts. You know who fights teams who suck?
Get some goal scorers. Get some snipers. Give me somebody that makes me drool when he's out there. I'm sick of this garbage. Tip in after that's what they look for. Tip-ins. You call them the tip-in team.
Carry it into the zone. Little pass, little bing, bing, bang. You see that with other teams. Sometimes they come in there, bing, 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 and sit back of the net before you blink. Not the Flyers.
McDavid had a goal last night where he turned the defenseman completely around and snapped one by the goal.
Oh, you mean he was able to just carry the puck?
Oh, yes.
He didn't need 7. And I know sometimes that's what you do, guys out front. But I'm saying all of their goals aren't manufactured by get some traffic out front of the net and get a stick on it. And it's been like that. Look, it seems like because Johnny Leclerc scored 50 goals, like let's just try to score all our goals like that. Don't have any snipers. Just park a guy out front. Fingers crossed that you get a couple across. Meanwhile, you look at these good teams. Man, if the puck moves, the skill level it's like they're playing.
You don't need every player to be like that. James Van Riemsdyk has been here for a while. He's a guy that could do that. He's a guy that's great at tipping the puck in that. Am I right?
Yeah, Simmons too.
You don't need 10 guys like that.
I want to show you the disparity between Dave Dombrowski and Chuck Fletcher for a moment.
Mm-hmm.
Dave Dombrowski moved Nick Maton and Matt Vierling and got some nice pieces in return, right? Now, the Flyers are nowhere in the same spot as where the Phillies were, but there was apparently some rumors that Nick Seeler was an option for some teams at the deadline.
Who?
This is a guy who is in and out of the lineup. He's a third-pair defenseman. He's a Nick Maton. He's a Matt Vierling. He's just a random back end of your roster guy.
Right.
They might not even move him with where the current franchise is, the current spot of the franchise. In what world do you not move on from a Nick Seeler? The fact that anyone in the world would even possibly want him is amazing. If someone is, you got to pick up the phone and make it happen, but they might hold on to him.
At this time, if I'm the Flyers GM, I'm lining my guys up and going, all right, you're going to Buffalo. You're going to Carolina. You're going to Colorado. I would line them up, send them out. Get new blood in here. Do anything you can to make this team as young as possible and start from there. You need to start from somewhere. What does anybody see? I hate to use this word because I know Tyrone hates a blueprint.
No, I'm good with a blueprint if you have one.
Does anybody see
like
one
those
with
fake
this team?
blueprint. Hell, hire Jay-Z. He probably would put some people in place. He knows how to do a blueprint. But all of them have to go. It's larger than what we think. This is decades worth of dreck that has to get cleaned out. One sell of a team, unless that guy's going to come in and say, yes, Mr. Clark, we appreciate you coming to watch games. If you go to any meeting, we'll have you arrested.
And by the way, any caller that calls in,
near a meeting.
Any caller that calls in, answer this question because we've heard this a lot from coaches, from GM. Mm-hmm. We're heading in the right direction. It's just going to take a while. What the hell is that direction?
I don't know.
Can you answer that?
Well, the other day, and I got to say, even the guys on Kincaid last week has that great show. And the guys coming on talking about, how they're the 5th most improved team and how, could you believe how close they are? Like, there were people within the organization saying that mess.
But that's because
out loud.
that's the message they want, because that's exactly what Chuck Fletcher said yesterday.
Now think about that. This team stinks. That's why, Mr. Clark, we appreciate, seriously, he can come to the arena to watch games whenever he wants. No meetings. Holmgren, no meetings. Fletcher, nothing. If you're upset, you can go too. I'm keeping Tortorella. Every player's available. I'm starting over. And, yeah, we might win 3 games next year. But at least we're going to attempt to build this with some rhyme or reason. And fans like A.A. Ron will hate it because he doesn't understand how deep these problems are. I wish it was just an ownership issue. Oh, I wish. It's far deeper. It's a decades-long culture issue within that organization, and all of it has to change. And it will not change just by changing the owner unless the owner's willing to actually say, hey, all of y'all, on the left, everybody on the left side of the room, go outside of the room. And they haven't done that in decades. Back to the phones. Charlie and West Defford, you're on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Hey, thanks for taking my call. I really appreciate this conversation you guys are having. This guy, Chuck Fletcher, you just touched on what I was going to say about the meeting that he had with the media 2 days ago.
Yeah.
About saying that we're the 5th most improved team. I agree with you. Yesterday was bottoming out, and I totally agree with that. But I have been so angry since I watched his face on that YouTube because he was smiling, seemed happy. I mean, he had the smile saying we're the 5th most improved team. Guess what? All right, 5th most improved team. I'm going to go off of hockey for a second. That's like 500 people going out for a marathon. You finish 5th, 500. The next year, you finish 300. Then the guy who finished 5th goes to 4th. The guy had most improvement is 500 to 300. Are you serious? He's still 300. So you're going to tell me the Colorado Avalanche, who won the Stanley Cup final, right? They're sitting there probably 3rd or 4th in the West right now. They're on their way up. They're going to make some moves. They're going to probably finish first. True. But as we speak now, the Flyers have a more improved season than the Stanley Cup champion, Colorado Avalanche.
What does that get you? What does that get you, Charlie? What does that get you, Charlie?
It gets you nothing.
It's going from a dumpster fire to just a dumpster.
He's saying that we're more improved than the Colorado Avalanche. This man, he thinks we're more improved. Just say that out loud like 5 times. Like, please, just to let that sink in. He's saying we're more improved than the Colorado Avalanche.
I'm disgusted by it. That's why if it was up to me, I mean, he's got millions of dollars.
And Charlie, why was he afraid to use the word rebuild? And then he tries to get all cute saying, well, it's just technically terminology.
No,
dude, you're a fraud is what it is. Chuck Fletcher's a fraud.
It's not terminology. It's about how you approach particular situations. Thanks for the call, Charlie. It's about how you approach certain situations. You approach everything with your roster in mind of who will be the players that are here when we're ready to win. Who are players here that will help? Maybe if you have a veteran who doesn't cost too much and you think he can help these young guys learn how to be NHL players, the keepers I'm talking about, you keep that guy around. But what you don't do is have these guys keeping veterans around just to keep them. You don't commit to long-term contract for fringe players, period. You do as many one-year deals as you possibly can unless the guy's a keeper.
The Flyers traded Ghost and packaged up picks for another team to take them.
Right.
Okay? He just got picked up by Carolina in the trade deadline. Carolina didn't want Tony DeAngelo anymore because they didn't want to pay him. The Flyers ended up paying Tony DeAngelo the money, and Carolina's like, oh, no, yeah, that guy Ghost. They're walking circles around what the Flyers are doing.
They're the same player. They're the same player.
No, look, Ghost wasn't good here, and I thought it was time. But you're giving away picks so teams can take Ghost. You're paying Tony DeAngelo, yet the good teams like Carolina decide, I don't want to spend that type of money on that player, and I'll wait the market out to go grab a Ghost when I feel necessary.
Another version of the guy they had. Basically, I'm saying but they've offensive-minded, limited defensively. What I'm saying is they're more alike than they're not alike.
And when's the sense of urgency kick in where it's, okay, let me maximize. If someone wants DeAngelo and I can trade,
peace.
I need assets.
Right.
I thought he said the other day that their transparent vision is they're going to rebuild. If that's the case, you sell these type of players.
And you just get the picks back because at that point you work off of volume. Because obviously all drafts are somewhat of a crapshoot. But I tell you what, the Eagles have 2 first-round picks. Let's say they end up with 3 or 4. The odds of all of 4 picks in the first round, 3 picks being bad are slim. Howie can mess up one in the 20s or 30s. Oh, he can mess up one. Rager. You give him the top 10 pick, Howie's not going to mess that up. You give him another pick, another couple, the odds go up. So at this point, if you can get 4th rounders, 3rd rounders, volume, draft a whole bunch of guys. Some will stink, but some might actually be able to play. Think about that. A young player on the Flyers who's good. Imagine that. Not a young prospect who might end up, I'm talking about a young player on the Flyers, young and really good. Like where somebody says, wow, that guy has the makings of a young star. When was the last time?
Notice the dead silence because we want to say something,
Star.
but no.
They need a star player. I'll start with one. That's a skater. Goalie is not. I'm saying I want one guy. That's a left wing, a right wing, or a center. That's a star.
Gauthier.
Okay. If he comes up as a star, then once I get one,
Now you need
then
2.
I want 2.
Mm-hmm.
And how about this? Then I can get a star defenseman too. So now I have a couple of forwards that are stars and a couple defensemen that are stars at the same time.
And at that point, Carter Hart will be too old, so you're going to have to
No,
trade
he
him
can be
away.
27 at that point.
They have too much
28.
money tied up right now in Ristolainen, Sanheim. They got money in Provorov. Their back end and where the money's spent, it's not looking
Horrible.
pretty.
Oh, People ridicule me, even some people in this building, about my love for Eric Desjardins. How bad does this team need Eric Desjardins? Okay, you guys would give your left hockey puck for Eric Desjardins right about now. So these people ridicule me. You need him. You haven't seen an Eric Desjardins since Eric Desjardins left. And there's no Eric Desjardins walking through that door. And we need Eric Desjardins, a modern puck-carrying defenseman that could also stay home and be point man on your power play.
You nailed it, man. I'm with you. That's exactly what you need.
See? Sometimes my obsessions are for a reason because I miss things. I haven't watched that for the Flyers in forever. Back to the foes. Bob in Westchester. You're on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Yeah, Tyrone, but I think you're missing a key defenseman there. Kimo Timonen was after Desjardins. He was kind of that same defenseman, but
He wasn't like my guy, Desjardins.
come on.
Go ahead.
Kimo was the man. But yesterday was so frustrating. I mean, Ricky, you said it earlier. I mean, never in your life have you ever seen, opposing team come into our building and that be the case. I mean, that was just awful to see as a Flyers fan. And it starts from the top all the way down. This team has got zero identity. There's nobody in the front office that has any identity. Nobody on the team has any identity. I mean, look at you don't even have any captains. You have Scotty Lawton, who's a third-line player wearing an A on a jersey.
Yep.
Where's the identity of this team? There's none. And that starts from the very, very top of this organization, and it needs to be put up.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Torts is doing his best. There's some things out of Torts that sometimes I feel he needs to tweak when he talks to certain players and how he says things publicly, like sitting Sanheim in his own city when the team is playing this poorly. There's some messages that I feel is a little strong, but at the end of the day, he's doing the most with what he can right now, and he's trying to build an identity. The problem is there's not enough talent to make it actually work, and that's why I wondered at the time. It was nothing against Tortorella. It was just, did that fit where the current mold was of this team?
The answer's no.
And I think the answer's no.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
And your coach can't be your identity of your team.